Fire, Captain. Engineering situation critical.
Are you bothered by his being here? Because it's really none of your business. Why do I think you're upset? Well, remember who you're talking.
They could still be alive after 18 years.
When Star Trek The Next Generation first flickered onto our screens, it wasn't just another sequel to a space saga. It became a lighthouse for a generation, showing us that a brighter tomorrow wasn't just a dream, but a destination through 7 remarkable seasons. The souls aboard the Enterprise grew into something more than characters. They became our own kin. They walked us through the fire of courage and the shadows of loss, always reaching for the very best of what we can be. Yet, 39 years have slipped past since that first voyage, and the steady march of time has left its mark on everyone. While some of those legendary figures are still walking the path with us, others have drifted off into their final sunset. Tonight, we're looking back at the faces we loved then and now, pausing to remember those who have already gone ahead. We gather to celebrate a story that refuses to fade, one that continues to push into the great unknown with heart. When Patrick Stewart enters the scene, the air in the room seems to settle into a respectful, heavy hush. You can see it in that one measured breath he takes, and the way his steady eyes hold the entire world. As Captain Jean-Luc Picard settles into his command on the bridge, there is a quiet dignity in his every move. Right then, you realize that true power isn't about shouting orders. It is something earned through a lifetime of wisdom. That was the exact second we all understood that a leader could be someone who thinks deeply and acts with calm. It showed us that leading is a deeply personal journey. Born on July 13th, 1940, Stewart was 47 years old. He was just 47 when he first donned the uniform back in the autumn of 1987. With the discipline of the Royal Shakespeare Company in his blood, he spent his younger days mastering the art of the stage. After a powerful turn in eye, Claudius, the role of Picard finally transformed him into a face recognized across the globe. This paved the way for his iconic X-Men journey, a return to the stage, and a voice that speaks for many. Before the cameras, he was the very definition of moral strength and the quiet power of doing what is right. Away from the set, the world discovered a man of sharp wit, deep kindness, and a soul dedicated to making a difference. Now in 2025, at the age of 84, he is still moving forward with a reflective and peaceful spirit. He picks his stories with a careful heart these days, focusing on the echoes a role leaves rather than the noise it makes. He stands as a gentle reminder that the most enduring strength is the kind that speaks in a whisper. It is a light that continues to guide our way, long after the distant stars have finally started to dim. You can see Jonathan Frakes leaning into the captain's seat, looking like he owns every inch of that starship. He has that famous way of swinging a leg over the chair, a move that radiated pure, easygoing confidence. Commander William T. Riker gives us that familiar, lopsided grin that told you everything was going to be all right. Mixing a sharp command with an undeniable charm, he made the entire bridge feel like a place where life truly happened. It was the moment we saw that a great leader could be both incredibly bold and wonderfully, warmly human. Born on August 19th, 1952, Frakes was a vibrant 35 when the world first met Number 1, a product of Penn State with deep roots in theater. His first big break came in the sweeping epic North and South, but it was Riker who defined him, showing us a man who stood tall with unwavering loyalty to his friends. Behind the scenes, Frakes proved to be a thoughtful artist, slowly trading the spotlight for the director's chair. His vision flourished behind the lens on projects like Roswell and Leverage, proving his creative heart was vast. Today, at 72, he is still the life of the party, directing new stories and meeting fans with a smile. He remains tethered to the vast Trek universe, a world that helped shape the man he has become today. His enduring legacy is found in that relaxed stance and the steady, comforting sound of a voice we know so well. He is living proof that you can be a fearless commander without ever having to lose your kindness. There stands Brent Spiner, perfectly still and pale under the glowing lights of the Enterprise bridge. With his head tilted just so, he looks for the hidden meaning in things where cold logic simply cannot reach. Whenever Commander Data hesitated over a simple human mystery, a beautiful kind of weight filled the silence. In those quiet beats, we saw the irony of a machine showing us all how to be better at being human. Born on February 2nd, 1949, Spiner was 38 when he first stepped into the android's shoes. After honing his skills at the University of Houston, he spent years on Broadway before the call of the stars came. Though Data was built for precision, Spiner gave him a soul full of wonder and a deep, searching curiosity. Spiner stepped out of the synthetic skin of Data to reveal a mischievous, chameleonic spirit in hits like Independence Day and the quirky halls of Night Court. He seemed to find a special kind of joy in playing figures who lived entirely without boundaries. And even now at 77, he refuses to step away from the footlights. Between writing his own stories and sharing laughs with those who grew up watching him, he is still peeling back the layers of what it truly feels like to be human. His greatest contribution remains the gentle, persistent inquiry of his most famous role, reminding us that life isn't about achieving perfection, but simply finding a place to call home. Michael Dorn would stand like a statue on the bridge of the ship, his posture unyielding and his eyes simmering with a fierce, controlled fire. There was a certain magic in the way he held his breath or tightened his jaw, letting a heavy sense of ancient honor fill the room before he ever uttered a word. That was the precise moment when the crowd stopped seeing just another alien soldier and started recognizing a deeply conflicted, living soul. It was the story of a man caught between two worlds, a journey that began for him back on December 9th, 1952. Dorn was already 34 years old when he began the grueling daily transformation into the legendary, battle-hardened Klingon for the world of Star Trek. Long before he navigated the stars in The Next Generation, he was honing his voice and his craft through radio broadcasting at Pasadena City College. He entered the world of professional acting, carrying a heavy rucksack of quiet ambition and the kind of focus you only see in those born to lead. Becoming Worf was both his golden ticket and his greatest challenge, demanding endless hours in a makeup chair and the patience of a saint. He brought a certain emotional weight to the screen that very few actors could carry, portraying a man who was as rigid as iron. While his character was a fierce warrior bound by strict laws, the real Dorn was a man of warmth, sharp humor, and profound personal reflection. He would go on to carry that mantle for years, deepening the legend of the warrior across the gritty landscape of Deep Space Nine. Beyond the makeup, he became a master of voice work and carefully crafted one of the most significant and moving character journeys in all of science fiction history. Today, at the age of 73, he remains a pillar of the community, deeply respected by his peers, and eternally grateful to the fans who stood by him, even when the heavy armor is put away for good. The quiet dignity of his performance continues to tell a story of struggle and grace. It is a timeless reminder of the heavy price one often pays to live a life governed by true honor. LeVar Burton would lean into the controls of the Enterprise, the golden glow of his visor reflecting the shimmering light of 1,000 distant suns. He brought a certain steady hand and a calm, reassuring presence to the bridge that made everyone feel like things were going to be all right. In those flickering frames, Geordi LaForge wasn't just a technician on a screen. He felt like a bridge to a better, more connected future for an entire generation. This was the moment when brilliant intelligence and genuine kindness finally became one and the same. Born on February 16th, 1957. He was a mature 30-year-old when he first took his place at the front of the starship. As a proud graduate of the USC School of Theater, He had already become a powerful cultural voice before he ever saw a starship. He had already moved the world as Kunta Kinte in Roots and sparked a love for stories in millions of children as the face of Reading Rainbow. Yet, it was through the eyes of Geordi that he was able to show us a new, more thoughtful kind of American hero. He played an engineer who didn't just fix engines, but solved the galaxy's problems with an abundance of heart, empathy, and endless patience. Behind the scenes, Burton carried the immense pressure of being a role model with a rare and beautiful sense of humility. He walked the tightrope of global fame while spending his life fighting for literacy and making sure everyone had a seat at the table. His path eventually led him behind the camera and into the producer's chair. But every project he touched was always deeply rooted in a higher purpose. Now, at 69, he is as vibrant as ever, still spending his days building the kinds of bridges that bring people together. His light hasn't dimmed a bit, serving as a lasting testament that having a curious mind is a truly brave way to live one's life. Gates McFadden would often stand perfectly still beside a biobed, her hands folded neatly and her gaze radiating a calm, unwavering strength. You could feel the tension as a life hung in the balance, while the soft humming of the medical bay seemed to dim whenever she entered the frame. She had a way of holding a moment just long enough to make you believe that everything was going to be handled with absolute care. In those quiet beats, Dr. Beverly Crusher felt less like a character in a play and more like a solid, comforting certainty in an uncertain universe. Born on the 2nd of June, 1949. She was 38 when she stepped into the role that would change her life forever. A Juilliard talent with a background in the fluid world of dance. She spent her early years as a master choreographer and movement coach. She first made her mark in the shadows of the industry, helping craft the strange and beautiful movements seen in cinematic dreams like Labyrinth. Her transition to the front of the camera was handled with careful intent, ensuring that every role she took was built on a foundation of true discipline. On our television screens, she used that precision to turn Crusher into a symbol of gentle authority and a heart that never stopped caring, away from the flashing lights. She faced the highs and lows of a fickle industry with a spirit that simply refused to be broken. She always found a way to come back even stronger, eventually sharing her wisdom through directing, teaching, and fighting for the rights of others. Her long journey through the stars is a beautiful reflection of intelligence, composure, and a rare kind of grace that shines brightest under pressure. Even today, at 77 years old, the fire of his creativity continues to burn as brightly as it did in those early days. We celebrate her for a storied legacy built on profound empathy and quiet strength, a presence that still resonates deeply within us all. Her journey serves as a gentle, quiet reminder that the act of healing your own heart can be its own magnificent form of heroism. You can almost see John Delancey leaning toward us with that trademark half smile, one that feels dangerous, playful, and impossibly knowing. With a sudden, sharp snap of his fingers, the very fabric of reality begins to bend. And in that frozen instant, Q steps into our lives. He did not arrive with the sound of rolling thunder, but with a simple, knowing grin that promised us a world of chaos and truth. Coming into this world on March 20th, 1948, Delancey had reached the age of 39 when he first stepped into that iconic role. It was in that pivotal moment that he truly embodied the character of Q, bringing a godlike mischief to our television screens for the first time. Though he was classically trained at the prestigious Juilliard School, it was the role of Q that would eventually become his most enduring and famous signature. He played an immortal cosmic trickster who seemed to spend his days mocking the human race, while secretly holding a deep faith in our potential. While other villains might have relied on grand spectacles, Delancey chose to wield the power of language, perfect timing, and a razor-sharp wit. He possessed an intelligence that could turn a simple monologue into a high-stakes duel, or transform a casual, mocking smile into a formidable weapon, away from the cameras. He is known as a thoughtful and articulate man who remains deeply committed to the finer points of his acting craft. Over the years, he has expanded his horizons even further, lending his voice to animation, producing new works, and connecting with fans through podcasting. There is a striking contrast in seeing a man of such personal restraint and elegance playing a cosmic being who knows absolutely no limits. These days, at 78 years of age, he remains just as creatively active as ever, ensuring that his remarkable legacy stays perfectly intact for us. Even now, the sound of Q's laughter seems to echo through time, not as a way to mock us, but as a warm, lingering invitation. He invites us to look closer at ourselves and question not only who we are today, but the incredible people we might yet become. Imagine Whoopi Goldberg leaning forward at that familiar bar, her hands perfectly still, and her eyes filled with a knowing grace as Guinan listens. In that quiet, heavy pause, the rules of time seem to bend, and suddenly, the vast Enterprise feels like an ancient and intimate home. That was the exact moment she first entered our lives, arriving not with a grand spectacle, but with something far more powerful and enduring. She brought a sense of wisdom to the screen that felt like it had been earned through 1,000 lifetimes of experience and soulful observation. Born on November 13th, 1955, Goldberg was only 32 years old when she first draped those iconic, colorful robes of Guinan over her shoulders. The path she took to reach that famous chair behind the bar was anything but traditional. Having been forged through the grit of street performance, she honed her skills in theater and improvisation before breaking through with an incredible, raw force in the 1985 classic film, The Color Purple. That performance earned her an Academy Award nomination and shifted the entire trajectory of her life, proving she was a talent the world couldn't ignore, whether it was comedy, heavy drama, the stage, or the silver screen. She proved time and again that she had mastered every facet of performance. She eventually became one of those rare, legendary performers to achieve the status of an EGOT winner, holding the highest honors in entertainment. Away from the set, Goldberg carried a razor-sharp wit and a spirit of activism, often finding herself misunderstood, yet always remaining entirely unapologetic. It was that fascinating contrast between the actor and the character that gave Guinan her incredible sense of gravity and her timeless, magnetic presence. Today, at the age of 70, she remains a powerful and active influence in our culture, continuing to share her unique perspective with the world. The presence of Guinan endures in our memories, never loud or fleeting, but waiting patiently for the moment we are finally ready to listen. Picture Wil Wheaton standing there at the very edge of the bridge, his shoulders slightly hunched as he looks out into the vastness of space. His eyes were always bright with the kind of big, heavy questions that seemed far too large for a young boy to carry all alone. Rather than announcing his arrival, he would simply observe and calculate, offering us a rare glimpse into a child allowed to be truly brilliant. He showed us what it looked like to be vulnerable and unsure while carrying the weight of the world. A truly human portrayal of youth. That was the defining moment he truly entered our lives, representing the youthful hope and the uncertain future that lives within every one of us. Born on July 29, 1972, Wheaton was just 15 years old when the creators of Star Trek The Next Generation called upon him. They asked a young boy to carry the heavy weight of the future on his shoulders, tasking him with a role that would define a generation. Having been trained early in the world of film and television, his big breakthrough came as a young child actor in the nostalgic classic Stand By Me. He earned massive praise for an emotional honesty far beyond his years. But with that sudden fame came a heavy, unrelenting pressure to succeed. Behind the bright optimism of Wesley Crusher lived a young actor trying to navigate impossible expectations, burnout, and a painful loss of his own story. Eventually, he made the choice to step away from the cameras, rebuilding his life through the power of writing, voice work, and advocacy. He transformed into a deeply respected voice for mental health and fandom culture, proving that there is life and strength far beyond the screen. These days, at the age of 53, he continues to create and connect with others, reminding us that the journey of discovery never truly ends. Looking back at Wesley Crusher, we see more than just a memory. He represents the enduring promise that our personal growth is rarely a straight line, and that true bravery is something that constantly matures. There is an indelible image of Denise Crosby standing under the unforgiving, sterile lights of the Enterprise hallways, a moment that captured a new kind of strength. Her frame was locked in a rigid military posture, with eyes that seemed to scan for every possible threat, showing a woman completely in her element. Beneath that crisp Starfleet uniform lived a quiet, simmering readiness. As Lieutenant Natasha Tasha Yar didn't need many words to make her presence felt during those first few minutes. She simply claimed her space on that deck. And in that heavy silence, the audience could feel her formidable spirit long before she ever had to raise her voice. That particular shot, frozen in time, would go on to live in the hearts of science fiction fans for decades to come. Coming into the world on November 24th, 1957, Crosby had reached 29 years of age by the time she stepped onto the bridge of the galaxy's most famous ship. She arrived on set having been polished by the rigorous traditions of the Le Conservatoire du Cinéma et de la Télévision in the romantic heart of Paris. With her came a deep sense of artistic discipline and a burning ambition to ensure her character was a flesh-and-blood woman, not just a two-dimensional symbol. Her big moment arrived with the creation of Tasha Yar, a role defined by a sharp intensity and a carefully guarded restraint that made her instantly fascinating. If you looked closely enough, you could see the echoes of a quiet, unspoken trauma lingering just beneath her tough, professional surface. However, the heavy weight of the studio's expectations and a lack of creative room to breathe eventually led her to make the difficult choice to walk away. It was a rare move that reminded us all of the personal toll taken on those who wear the uniform. But Crosby moved forward to find new life in films like Pet Sematary. She navigated the high stakes of Deep Impact and eventually found her way back to the world of Star Trek, returning this time entirely on her own terms. Eventually, she stepped into the role of a cinematic storyteller herself, moving behind the camera to capture the heartbeat of the community she helped build. She directed Trekkies as a way to honor the devoted fans who refused to let Tasha's flame burn out. And now, in 2026, at the age of 68, her spirit remains bright. She stands today as a powerful symbol of independence, serving as proof that walking away from a dream can sometimes make your legacy even more profound. Picture Colm Meaney in the humming glow of the transporter room, his sleeves rolled up just a bit as if he's ready to fix the very fabric of space. His gaze remains steady and grounded, while that familiar. The shimmering sound begins to fill the air around him, signaling another transition between the stars. Chief Miles O'Brien wasn't one for grand entrances or fancy speeches. He was a man who simply showed up and did the hard work that kept everyone safe. There was usually just a subtle nod or a final expert adjustment to the console before the transport beam took hold and sent someone on their way. In those humble moments, we were introduced to a man who didn't carry the weight of the future with grand oratory, but with a simple sense of duty. The camera always seemed to linger on him a little longer because his performance felt like something real, something we could all reach out and touch. Born on August 30th, 1953, Meaney was 34 when he joined the fleet, bringing with him the rich training of Dublin's legendary Abbey Theatre School of Acting. He managed to blend a classical, high art discipline with the honest, blue-collar grit of a man who knew the value of a hard day's labor. While his early breakthrough came in the 1981 classic Excalibur, it was his time in the 24th century that truly defined his career. O'Brien became the vessel through which Meaney showed us how to ground massive, epic worlds in the relatable reality of human effort and exhaustion. Behind the scenes, he skillfully managed the delicate balance between the stability of a long-running television show and a restless, artistic hunger for different roles. That drive led to unforgettable turns in films like The Commitments and Con Air, proving he was just as comfortable in a heist or a band as he was in space. Now, at 72 years old, he continues to be one of the most respected figures in the industry. A craftsman who never lost his touch. He remains a working actor of immense integrity. Still, the first choice for directors who need a performance filled with genuine weight, warmth, and truth. While some legacies shout, others, like Deanna Muldaur's, whisper with authority as she marches into sickbay with a sharp, knowing glance that commands the room. With her sleeves pulled up and a voice that never wavered, she was the kind of doctor who wasn't intimidated by the legend standing right in front of her. Dr. Catherine Pulaski didn't arrive to make people feel comfortable or to soften the edges. She was there to do a job. And she did it with conviction. From that very first exchange, you could see the steel behind her bedside manner, testing the environment around her with the precision of a surgeon. Audiences immediately recognized a physician who had been hardened and shaped by decades of real-world experience rather than a simple desire to follow orders. This was a portrayal of authority that felt completely earned through years of trial, rather than something simply announced by a rank on a collar. Born on August 19, 1938, Muldaur was 50 years old when she brought her formidable presence to the set of The Next Generation. Her craft had been honed at Sweetbriar College and refined through the demanding world of classical stage acting long before she ever saw a starship. She had already carved out a highly respected career with powerful performances in LA Law and Kung Fu, establishing herself as a force to be reckoned with. Though her initial breakthrough had happened many years prior, the role of Pulaski served as a definitive and bold statement for the later years of her career. She gave us a character who was principled, deeply skeptical, and yet profoundly human in her flaws and her unwavering dedication to her patients. When the cameras were rolling, she was the embodiment of absolute conviction. A woman who knew exactly who she was and what she stood for. Away from the set, she was admired for her sharp intelligence and a fierce refusal to ever be placed in a box. And, at 88, she enjoys a quiet life. Today, Dr. Pulaski stands as a lasting testament to the idea that true strength is often calm, seasoned by time, and incredibly enduring. There is a certain kind of cinematic magic that happens in the quiet moments after the theater lights flicker back to life, leaving us with memories that refuse to fade into the night. It makes you wonder how a single performance can stay tucked away in our hearts for decades, long after the credits have finished rolling. When Marina Sirtis first appeared on our television screens, there was a profound sense of grace about her, a stillness that felt like it was forged through years of dedication and deep personal wisdom. She did not just occupy the frame, she seemed to settle into it with an effortless poise that commanded our collective attention without ever needing to raise her voice. We all remember the way Deanna Troi would gently tilt her head, capturing the unseen emotions of the room with a gaze that was simultaneously tender and remarkably unshakable. It was as if she were reading the very soul of the galaxy, waiting for the perfect moment to offer her quiet, yet powerful, perspective on the human condition. In the middle of that electric silence on the bridge, surrounded by the rhythmic hum of the Starship Enterprise, her capacity for feeling became her greatest weapon. It was a time when we realized that being soft did not mean being weak. It was the very thing that kept the crew together during their darkest hours among the stars, even amidst the high-stakes pressure of deep space exploration. The most impactful moments were not the shouts of command, but the heavy pauses where human understanding outweighed raw authority. Do you remember how those small, shared glances between characters often spoke louder than any phaser blast ever could? This was the world that welcomed Deanna Troi into our living rooms. Brought to life by a woman born on March 29th, 1955. From that day on, the landscape of science fiction was changed forever, leaving us to wonder what other secrets her personal journey held before she reached the stars. Marina Sirtis had reached the age of 32 when she finally donned that iconic uniform, stepping into a legacy that would define her career for the rest of her life. It was the perfect age to bring a sense of grounded maturity to a character who had to be the emotional anchor for an entire starship traveling through the unknown. Before she ever navigated the galaxy, she was honing her craft in the hallowed halls of the Guildhall School of Music and Drama back in London, England. She carried the weight of that classical training in her every stride, bringing a touch of the old world stage to the futuristic frontier of Hollywood. When she finally touched down in the sun-drenched streets of Hollywood, she arrived armed with a razor-sharp wit and a level of professional discipline that few could match. It was that unique blend of British rigor and natural charm that made her presence feel so vital and fresh to American audiences searching for a new kind of hero. Her big break as Counselor Troi did more than just land her a job. It completely reshaped the way we thought about emotional intelligence on our television screens. Suddenly, the most important person in the room was not the one with the loudest voice, but the one who truly understood the unspoken feelings of those around them. She showed us all that compassion was not just a soft trait to be brushed aside, but a vital and necessary instrument of effective leadership in any century. Looking back, isn't it incredible how much we learned about our own hearts just by watching her guide the leaders of the future through their own emotional storms, far beyond the silver screen and the tight-knit world of Star Trek? Marina Sirtis carved out a diverse and rich career that spanned from major motion pictures to the intricate world of voice acting. She proved time and again that her talent could not be boxed into a single genre, constantly seeking out new stories that challenged her as an artist. She found herself returning home to the Star Trek universe time and again, even as she continued to push the boundaries of her own acting range in other projects. Each time she stepped back into those shoes, she reminded us of that unique ability to absorb the world's pain and turn it into something beautiful and healing. Throughout the decades of being a science fiction icon, Marina has carried the heavy weight of fan expectations with a brilliant sense of humor and an unwavering resolve. She never shied away from the spotlight, but rather, she embraced the community that had grown to love her so deeply over the years, treated them like old friends. Now, at the age of 70, she remains as vibrant and outspoken as ever, serving as a living reminder that true empathy is a flame that never really goes out. It is inspiring to see her continue to use her voice to champion the same values she portrayed on our television sets so many years ago, proving that some things never change. It has been 39 years since we first embarked on that journey with Star Trek, The Next Generation. And yet that legacy continues to shine as brightly as a distant star in the night sky. It makes you realize how some adventures truly are timeless, connecting generations of fans through a shared vision of a better tomorrow. If revisiting this journey into the stars has touched your heart today, please consider hitting that like button, to subscribing to our channel, and sharing your favorite memories in the comments below. We would love to hear which moments from the show still stay with you after all this time and what they meant to your younger self. There are so many more timeless stories hidden within the golden era of American television, and we cannot wait to explore them all with you in future episodes. Won't you stay a while and see what other nostalgic treasures we have uncovered from the deep archives of Hollywood history? Thank you so very much for spending your time with us today as we unravel these cherished secrets of film and television history. It has been a true pleasure sharing these memories with a friend like you. and we look forward to our next trip down memory lane together very soon.